Welcome to Talking with Tech. My name's Chris Bouguet, and unfortunately, I'm not here with Rachel Needle. It's just going to be me solo doing this.
Chris? Hey!
Hi. Hi, Melissa.
Hi. Can I join you? I'm sorry, you were recording.
I was, because Rachel can't be here today, so I was just...
Oh, can I fill in?
Sure. What are we
talking about?
What do you want to talk about?
Well, I have something to talk about.
What is it?
Well, I just wanted to share, because you won't share with everybody, but I'm going to, that your Assistive Technology team was nominated and won an award for our special education committee. And they are a group of parents and advocates and educators and directors, and they work so hard for our students that have disabilities in the county to make sure it's equitable. And every year they have one of the best ceremonies of the year. Parents, community members, business partners, other teachers nominate these wonderful people who do this rich work every day. I just wanted to point out that your Assistive Technology team, there's 9 of you, right?
Mm-hmm. 9 plus me.
9 plus you. It's amazing how many people and children you have made a difference for. And it came out very clearly this year because your team won for the most inclusive team in our county. Yeah,
it's kind of a big deal. I'm not going to lie. I teared up a little bit when I got the news that the whole team won the Special Ed Advisory Committee Council Inclusive Team Award.
Yes.
In the past, there have been individual team members that had won, and then actually there's 2 individual team members that won as well. And you won in the past, right? You were the most inclusive administrator once upon a time.
Well, and that leads me into... You also won, Chris, individually. I know some of your team members won as well, and they are absolutely incredible. I've been lucky enough to work with all of your team, but you won for most inclusive administrator. Congratulations.
Thank you. Hey, you're saying that. I appreciate it.
I'm very proud of you.
So there's an award ceremony coming up, and we'll get to take some pictures. And I know people are asking for media, so I was helping submit videos and pictures of stuff. So there'll be a little slideshow behind the scenes. Quick story about the last Special Ed Advisory Committee Award ceremony. The president of SEAC had presentations, and she had learned to turn the captions on, right? It's something I say at all the presentations. And she was like, okay, let's turn the captions on for the awards. And as the captions were going, you were there. I wasn't actually there.
It got stuck.
It got stuck. It got stuck with a word up on the screen that we won't repeat here on the
It was podcast. Not school appropriate.
Yes. It's only 3 letters, though, so we'll let you guess. It's only 3 letters. But still, it was not school appropriate. It got stuck up there. But what we say when the technology breaks, it's just a teaching moment. It's just a teaching moment. Doesn't mean not to use it. Sometimes the tech glitches, and then you say, "Hey, this stuff happens. We're all mature, and let's just turn the computer off and turn it back on again, and then it'll be fine." But still,
we were very
better
mature.
To have the captions.
Yes.
Better to have the captions on, even if there's a naughty word that pops up every once in a while.
And some people giggle. It's fine.
All right. Well, thank you so much for saying that. Thanks for pointing that out. Really appreciate you barging in here.
I'm sorry I barged in.
The closet.
What else are you talking about?
Well, I'm going to segue right into the interview today, which is with Claire O'Connor, who reached out. She's a PhD student.
Nice.
Who is working on studying the AI and AAC. And so she reached out to me like, hey, I know you're into AAC and I know you're into AI. I wanted to ask you a couple things. And so I said, sure. Can we record? And so this is a conversation with Claire O'Connor talking all about AI and AAC.
We'd like to thank all of the wonderful Patreon supporters who make this show possible. This podcast is funded by listeners just like you who've signed up at patreon.com/talkingwithtech to show their support. Because of the generosity of our amazing Patreon community, we're able to pay Luke and Michaela, our podcast producer and audio engineer, who keep the show looking and sounding great. Patreon supporters also receive bonus content, such as early access to interviews, behind-the-scenes recordings, additional curated resources and materials, and so much more. Check it out at patreon.com/talkingwithtech. Now let's head back into the episode.
Welcome to Talking with Tech. My name is Chris Bouguet, and today I'm joined with Claire O'Connor. Claire, am I saying your last name correctly?
Yes.
Well, and your first name correctly?
Mm-hmm.
So Claire, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do and what we're doing here today.
So I'm a first-year PhD student at University of Maryland, the College of Information, and I'm also a licensed speech-language pathologist in Maryland. My research interests primarily lie within the intersection between AI and AAC communication.
Go Terrapins.
Yes.
You reached out because you have some research that you're doing. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right, how can I help?
Yeah. So right now, originally we had the idea of doing a co-design workshop, having our AAC users design prototypes to use for large language models such as ChatGPT. And for those of you who don't know what ChatGPT is a language model where you input prompts such as questions or copying and pasting text, and then it provides you with a response. So for example, if you ask it about something that happened in regards to current events, it will generate a response for you within seconds. So what we want to do is we want to try to take what ChatGPT does and see if it could be replicated to use as a support for AAC communication. So the motivation behind this study is to kind of target some communication barriers that AAC users experience. So for example, previous work has kind of shown that AAC users experience certain barriers such as delayed timing when trying to form a response. Also, the cognitive burden of, going through all those icons, if they're keyboard users, going through all those letters to try to form those words and phrases. So what we want to leverage ChatGPT for is kind of just expanding on what they're trying to say. So for example, if they're only typing like maybe 1 to 2 words or, 1 to 2 letters per every like 20 or 30 seconds, maybe ChatGPT can kind of expand the phrase that they're trying to say. So that is the main goal of what we're trying to do. As we're kind of getting into the recruitment phase of looking for AAC users who would be interested in this, we're kind of just taking a step back and we're looking at it from a more personal lens, because the goal of this project is not just to use this tool as a support, but also to make sure that AAC users' voices are heard. So in order to do that, we want to make sure that they're comfortable with sharing their ideas when thinking about some design considerations with this. So with that being said, prior to the co-design workshop, we're hoping to start an AAC support group where AAC users kind of gather together, share their benefits and challenges when using their AAC devices in their daily lives, and also kind of sharing their familiarity with AI tools such as ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude, so that we kind of have an idea of where they are in terms of, how often they use them, what tasks do they use them for, and, how comfortable they are with using them like regularly. With that being said, right now we're trying to target specifically adult users. We're starting off with that, and eventually, once we see success with adult AAC users, we're hoping to expand it to child populations as well. So that's kind of the overall gist of our plan for what we're doing. I've been working closely with my advisor, Dr. Stephanie Valencia, who does a lot of work with AAC use and merging AI technologies such as large language models for their communication. So we've been working together to try to form this group and to try to get AAC users more involved with the design process.
Okay, awesome. Claire, so let me ask some clarifying questions. You've been using the pronoun we. Are you a team of people doing this, or is it just you and Dr. Valencia?
I've been working with lab mates, part of my lab, who have have assisted me in thinking about design activities and also, ideas to try to engage the AAC community more. So I would say this is more of a team effort. I probably wouldn't be able to do this without them. So, yeah.
When you use the term co-design workshop, can you describe what you mean by that a little bit?
Yeah, so co-design workshop is part of this research methodology called participatory design. And that's where you design prototypes with the research participants. So for those of you who have read previous literature, a lot of the research out there, specifically in the ASHA journal, it's mostly, user-centered, where, you have them test out products, or you ask them questions, maybe do like a focus group interview, maybe do a survey. That's more user-centered. So they're not actually a part of the design process. They're just participating in the design that you already created for them. With the co-design process, you do set up certain activities for them to do, but they are the ones who design that product. So that, I would say, that's the difference between co-design and other research out there.
Okay, interesting. And I guess another form of research that you're not doing that doesn't sound like this would be something like, we have this hypothesis, and so we're going to test it by using eliminating variables and try and isolate things. That's not it, right? You're trying to actually create something, right? But you're using the term research. Is that fair?
If there is a hypothesis, I feel like that's the basic groundwork for any research project. But in terms of a hypothesis, it's pretty common to have like those research questions that you want to know. So for example, if you're trying to see if something is feasible, if you're trying to see if there's a certain gap in research that hasn't been addressed yet by other people, that's kind of the basis of your research question. Can my methodology, like co-design, address these barriers that AAC users experience? That is a hypothesis. What I'm talking about with co-design is that's more of the methodology that we're following. So there's a difference between the methodology and then the hypothesis that you're testing, because that's kind of like, again, the framework of what your research is.
Okay. The way I understand hypothesis is not a question, but a statement. Like, I believe this. And then we have these questions to verify that. And regardless, it sounds like you have some sort of design in place, and you're looking for partners to help you co-design it. Is that fair? And if that's the case, so it sounds like generally you're asking about ChatGPT or other large language models. Do you have some designs already in mind of how it can be used? For instance, some apps have already said, well, let's see, how can we do this? We could say we need a fringe board for the time we go to the zoo. And previously, clinicians or parents or users themselves had to create a board on their device for things they might need in a specific location. And now they can go, hey, prompt, create me 25 icons that fills out this board for when I go to the zoo. And they hit a button and it fills it out. Are you that far along in design, or is it still in the conceptual phase? Where are we with that?
So right now, I would say it's more in the conceptual phase, because we haven't actually run the co-design workshop. I just want to make sure that, our ideas are preserved, and that we are looking into maybe like building off of like what previous research has done in terms of already using large language models out there to expand AAC messages. But in terms of the exact activities we have planned, right now it's kind of just like, thinking of ideas, trying to conceptualize them in a way where it's feasible to do it in an in-person workshop. So I would say that's where we're at right now.
Gotcha. So what you're looking for is maybe a group of AAC users that come together in person or virtual or both?
We're looking to have AAC users come in person.
Okay. So that means they're probably going to need to be in the Northern Virginia, Southern Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and then, of course, Maryland area, right? Yeah. That part of the country that's, drivable to get there?
Yeah. pretty much.
Okay. And I'm going to guess that there's no compensation for this. It's a sort of volunteer, or is there?
No, there is compensation.
Okay, awesome. Tell us about that.
I also want to differentiate too. The support group is completely voluntary that we plan on doing prior, but once we launch the co-design workshop, that is 100% compensated for. So any AAC user who we recruit who would be a good fit for the workshop, they would definitely receive a compensation. And then any caregiver that assists them in the workshop will also receive compensation as well.
Awesome. And are you picturing these as like full day events? Like you come and work together for a full day and then go home or spend the night sort of thing?
So I did have planned like maybe a 2-hour workshop and maybe doing it in the span of 2 weeks. But I think with everybody's schedule, because I know AAC users, they do a lot. Like they have a lot of therapy that they have to attend to. They have, daily activities they need to attend to. I've been kind of floating around the idea of maybe doing like a 1-day thing and making it 4 to 5 hours, having frequent breaks in between, of course, and kind of just using this as like a full day where, AAC users trial and error, different prompts that they could try with ChatGPT.
Gotcha. Okay. It sounds like maybe you have activities already planned for this. Like you said, try different prompts. What are some of the things you're sort of thinking? What are some of the questions you're like, more specifically, what are some of the questions you're looking to answer?
I won't go into detail with the activity because I don't want to share that yet. We haven't run the co-design workshop and I want to kind of keep that like under wraps, but
okay.
With the question that we're hoping to answer with this, we're hoping to see if ChatGPT can be used as a communication tool. The reason why I emphasize the word support and not replacement, a lot of, I actually did hear my advisor talking about this yesterday, but a lot of concerns with using large language models is bias. So when you're using large language models, they're learning not only your own communication style, but they're also learning about the global knowledge that's out there. So for example, like what's in like news articles, what's on like basic like, blog posts, like they're learning all that information and they're combining it with your communication style. So for example, they may assume something that may not entirely be correct. And sometimes that can pose as a barrier when using large language models, because even though like, yes, it can provide instantaneous communication and also responses, it doesn't really like, it's not always accurate. And, I've learned this in school right now. I've learned this, using it for like writing like emails and also like, analyzing text. And I always feel the need to like go through and check it because it's not always correct. So in terms of using it as like using it for something that's second nature to us, which is communication, I think it's important to consider that it shouldn't be a replacement. It should be a support. And that's what we're hoping to gain from this co-design workshop.
Yeah, the phrases that I've been using in talking about generative AI for any purpose, like I work for a public school, right? But just in general is as a partner. So it's not doing it for you. You're doing it. It's doing it with you. You're the final say as the human of what you're, producing. Recognize that there might be these biases in it, but that I also don't want to. That often is a thing that people talk about with large language models, but it's also just the world in general. Like if you go into into search, do anything on the internet, it's going to be riddled with bias, right? So I think pointing it out makes sense, but also pointing out that we live in that. I think it's really important when we talk about the large language models and the bias is that there is often ableism built into it, but that's not often talked about as the bias that is pointed out in many conversations. I'll give you a quick example, Claire. I was doing a presentation on universal design, and I was trying to create an image of a library that didn't have stairs. So multiple levels, but didn't have stairs. It like just ramps that would roll. It could not. I mean, maybe it could. I used multiple tools. I prompted like prompt engineered for over an hour trying, okay, not that, let me try this. I could not get it to generate an image of a multi-tiered library without stairs. You know what I mean? When it creates stairs, I'd be like, okay, now can you change the stairs to a ramp? Okay, but still stairs, like I couldn't get rid of it. So that bias is and there's certain language I think that comes out when you're using the large language models that way. So I think it's really wise what you're talking about is to thinking about it as a thought partner and recognizing that it's not perfect, that it's not going to replace anything, that it's a do with, not for.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I actually, yesterday, I attended a workshop for this human computer interaction conference that I am looking to attend eventually. In the workshop, we were talking about trust in AI. So, how does somebody automatically trust AI? Like, what are the certain factors that kind of entice us to use AI? So I think identifying that trust first, kind of just identifying like what initiates that trust, like how do large language models kind of bring us into using it more in order to kind of teach us that it can't be something that we could rely on. It has to be something that can be used as a support. And I think right now, like with our generation, like it's scary, like it's used for everything. And I've noticed like even my professors that have used AI like this, they, some of them are okay with it, some of them are not okay with it. So like, it's still like a gray area that we're trying to explore, but just identifying what makes somebody trust AI. What are certain factors that, we trust about it in order to kind of understand like how we could kind of see it more as a support rather than like a replacement.
For sure. Like I said, I work in public schools. I know everywhere across the country at this point, and for the immediate future, I think is going to be wrestling with how do we reconcile our current practices around education or just life with AI and integrate it into our practices. And you said, I hear things all over the map where it's, ban it. We don't want it in our schools, or we don't want to use it but then how are we preparing people to actually use it when they leave? I say this all the time. It's very reminiscent of the conversations I was having with many people were having about 10 years ago around mobile technologies. It's going to revolutionize everything. We're going to have these computers in our pockets. Students can just look up information and find it and synthesize it. And now it's largely banned in schools and thought of as a negative thing. And so I could see that as a potential outcome, but trying not to get too far away from what you're trying to do with AAC, because I could go on about generative AI in general practice. Let me ask you: have you had any feedback from AAC users yet, or is it still too early, or just in the collection phase of trying to find people to help in the co-design process?
Like you said, we are in the collection phase, but I actually did a talk with the speech and hearing discussion group in the DMV area. They have virtual meetings once a month. And I did a talk back in February about, this project and what I had planned for the co-design workshop. And I actually used that as an opportunity to gather feedback from SLPs around the area on their thoughts about using AI with AAC users. And it was really surprising as how common it is, like to not just with like integrating it with AAC use, but also just like SLP, like as a practice. Like so many of them have mentioned like using it for like creating like lesson plans or, grammar checking emails. And those are kind of just like some of the tasks that they had mentioned using it for. And they also offered like, potential benefits of using AI. So a lot of them kind of said the same thing that I said in the beginning of this interview, like increasing timely responses and also, relieving that cognitive burden of forming those messages. I liked how like we were kind of on, like we had the same mindset in terms of how AI can be used to enhance communication. I think I did learn a little bit more about how AI was used in, the SLP practice as well. So it really was surprising.
I mean, to me, it makes a lot of sense for just the two purposes you mentioned, like enhancing the rate of communication. Well, that's really what it's good at in general, is that it helps you be, again, if you're using it wisely and you've sort of recognized what it can do for you, it's a time saver for everybody, right? Like, I will never submit a proposal for a conference again without using generative AI to help me write that, right? I mean, I use it every single day to make myself more productive. And I feel like, there's this phrase that we use when we talk about it from an employment standpoint, is that AI is not going to steal your job. It's the people who know AI are going to steal your job, right? Because they're going to be much more productive. So it makes a lot of sense, like, especially from a productivity standpoint, when it comes to speech and language therapy, or really education in general. Why wouldn't I use it to help me generate more respectful goals, maybe more poignant goals written from a strength-based perspective, analyze my data, as long as I'm doing it in a way that is not, that is not sharing PII or personal identifying information, right? If I strip out that information and just say, hey, can you analyze my data for me? And these are all things. How many people as speech therapists, I think speech, I'm sure you'll resonate with this, is that when you were in college, you did a language sample, and in practice, you never do a language sample again. Or maybe once or twice when you first started and said, whoa, this is way time consuming. I'm not doing this. Yeah. I'll just use, but now you could hit a record, have it transcribe it, ask the MLU, right? Like, ask for errors, and it can give you all that information. So there's lots of ways you can use it to increase your productivity. And I can see AAC users too. When I first, about 2 years ago now, when I went to a conference and ChatGPT had just come out, I sat with two AAC users, one who was a heavy word prediction user. And I just said to him, hey, dude, have you seen ChatGPT yet? And he's like, no. I'm like, I don't know how to describe it. Maybe since you're a word prediction user, tying it to your background knowledge is that it's sort of souped up word prediction on steroids, to quote, to overuse that phrase. And he's like, show me. And so it's like, well, let me show you. And he's like, oh my goodness, this can totally enhance my rate, and it's going to help me generate thoughts. And then again, like, I'm the final person that gets to choose, but if I can edit what's already created, oh my gosh, it's going to save me so much time. Then I showed it to another person who is a direct selector, who is super wicked fast at using his AAC, to the point where he doesn't really need to look at the device in the same way that I might not look at my keyboard while I'm typing. He doesn't look at his AAC device when he's generating sentences, because he just knows where the words are super fast. He was like, no, I mean, this is going to slow me down. I'm already faster than that. Why would I do that? So again, I think that's why it's so important that you're getting user feedback, is because I think you're going to see that my hypothesis would be you're going to see lots of different viewpoints about how it can be used.
Yeah, no, definitely. I totally agree. And, I think, again, it's important that we kind of see it as like something that can be useful and not something that can be harmful, because, again, like, we're slowly kind of learning about AI as it's kind of like a gray area right now. Like, there are just certain like things that we don't know about AI that we may know within like the next couple months or maybe next year. But in terms of its potential with AAC communication, I definitely do think like it can serve AAC users in respect to increasing that response time, and also, relieving that cognitive burden. I think like this co-design workshop we're going to have planned will almost like empower AAC users to kind of share their input, because when AAC users are maybe given a device for the first time, or maybe, they're given a new device that they have to try out, I feel like sometimes it's hard to adjust because there's a learning curve. Like, you're trying to learn how to adjust to this new set of communication. But if you're the one who's designing it, if you're the one who's offering those ideas to try to make that communication for yourself, then it kind of mitigates that learning curve and, kind of offers you like that accessible communication that you've been looking for. So we're hoping to kind of use the idea for the co-design workshop, and we're hoping to make sure that AAC users like are empowered and can speak their mind in terms of the ideas that they could offer. So
awesome. Yeah. Awesome. Claire, do you mind if I plant something in your brain, maybe get your feedback on it? Because there's something in this conversation that is rarely brought up, and I'd like to bring it up now to put it in your brain. The conversation we're having right now, I've had many times with many people over the last 2 years, because the immediate thought is, just like you're saying, wait, let's talk about how generative AI can help people with producing language, learning language, rate enhancement, right? They're really focused on the AAC user. There are companies right now, like I said, working on their apps and thinking, how can generative AI help us with our apps? Maybe it's in helping understand symbols better, or like I said, fringe boards, right? But there is a conversation that nobody is having that I'd like to put in your brain. So for years and years and years, being someone who's been supporting AAC for 20 plus years of my career, something that I recognized has been, all right, we picked the thing. Here's the tool. I'm going to deliver it to the staff and to the kid user. And I'm going to say, here's what you need you to do. I need you to model on this communication device, and I need you to give them wait time. And I need you, by modeling, I mean, I need you to use a communication partner. And over and over and over again, I'd come back, and I think anyone listening right now, and you might resonate with this too, how come they're not doing it? And I told them to model on the device, and they're not doing it. I told them to give them more wait time. Like, I explicitly told them what to do, and they're not doing it. It's still on the shelf. It's not implemented. They're not teaching. They're not doing any of the things I said. There's the people who win, meaning the people who can say whatever they want to say, however they want to say it with AAC coming out of schools is still few. Like, the numbers are still small. And so recognizing that was an issue, I did some like, okay, well, what can I change, right? And part of it was helping the communication partner become better at being a good communication partner. And that is through a coaching model. So what we do in our neck of the woods, Claire, and this is, people listening to the podcast will have heard this before, but the way it works in our neck of the woods now is, okay, teacher or parent, we could do better with the parent side, but just say communication partner, here's the AAC tool. Here's some explicit instruction around it. You need to model on the device. Here's some mnemonics you can use to help learn how to be a good communication partner who models well. But that is a skill. And like any other skill, like throwing a football or, driving a car, it takes practice. And the best way you can practice is if you had a coach. So we're going to give you at a minimum 6 sessions where we're going to coach you through, where you're going to try and do this skill. You're going to try and model on this device, and we're going to give you feedback. That feedback is rarely is it directly going to tell you you should wait longer. No, it's not that. It's, hey, remember how we talked about waiting longer? How do you think that went? Do you think like you waited long enough? Hey, remember how we talked about you were going to add one more word onto what the person said? So the AAC user said one word. And the skill has been to use that word and add one more to it, so that they're getting this repetition with variety around the language that you're exposing them to. All of that is a skill. So here's the coach. How do you think you did with the expansion? And I don't hear anyone talking about using generative AI to help the communication partner get better at the skills of being a good communication partner. Imagine the generative AI being, let me record the session, or let me analyze the buttons you pressed on your communication device as the communication partner and give you feedback about what you could have done differently, or just ask you questions and the generative AI being your thought partner, because we don't have enough coaches to go around to all the people that are communication partners. I know I'm talking a lot, but just let me give you one scenario here, okay? Mm-hmm. Imagine a little kid learning how to use a communication device, their parent sitting on the couch next to them, and they're reading a book together. And the parents are meant to try and do comment, ask, respond, which is a strategy to hey, I'm a parent. I don't know how to really read to my kid. Like, I picked up this picture book. I know I'm supposed to read picture books, so I'm just going to read word by word, and I'm not going to model on my device. Someone like you or I, Claire, tells them explicitly, we need you to model on the device. Here's what you do when you're sitting on the couch with the student next to you. Comment on some of the pictures that you see. Ask them a question about what they're seeing, and then respond to your own question if they don't respond, right? Do that. Now, do that with generative AI sort of listening into the background, and that it gives you feedback. Hey, you could have asked a question here, or here's some questions you could have asked. Here's some comments you could have made. You made 4 comments. See next time if you could make 6 comments. You modeled on the device 6 times. Your goal was to get to 8. Here's how you can do 2 more. Like, the generative AI being your thought partner as a communication partner is nothing. I don't hear anyone in our space talking about that use of it. And so I know that was me rambling a lot, but what are your thoughts of using generative AI as a communication partner support?
I think that it would have potential in terms of maybe measuring the progress of the support partner, but in terms of offering ideas or input, I would say that's still questionable, because not only, again, are they getting this from like global knowledge sources, like, on the internet, or like, from a blog post, but I think in terms of subjective support, I think that should come from the clinician, because then you're talking about the clinician kind of or the generative AI slowly kind of taking the clinician's position. And that's what is a little frightening to me. So I would say that when thinking about how to frame generative AI as a support for the communication partner, I think yes, it could be used as a measuring tool to kind of like monitor the progress of the communication partner. But in terms of offering specific ideas, I think it would have the potential if clinician were behind offering those ideas, but to solely rely on the ideas that the generative AI is, showing the communication partner, I think that's something that should definitely be questioned, because I don't think, again, we entirely know the capabilities of generative AI yet. And I think, again, we want to make sure that it's a support and not a replacement.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. In your co-design, right, model, you're thinking there'll be some sort of product that comes out of it?
We're not sure yet. I think we'll have a better idea once we run it, and once we have data, then we could kind of further assess and see where it goes. But right now, we're kind of just in the recruitment phase of, looking for AAC users interested, and also looking to create our support group. So I would say that's kind of in the wraps right now. We haven't really quite gotten that far, but I think it would be pretty cool to explore it.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I wonder about is more specific GPTs. So again, you did a great job sort of describing ChatGPT in general. And so what a GPT is, again, for our listening audience, is something that has been designed by humans to be used with ChatGPT that is more specific user base. So for instance, I created one for our podcast where you could, I've sort of trained it to what to look for. So I've sort of put some guardrails around the generative AI and said, I need you to do these things, right? And I wonder, and not do these things. Like specifically search through our podcast inventory or our podcast history to look for answers on blah, 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 as opposed to search your whole large language model for answers on blah, blah, blah. And I wonder about a product like that, so that it is designed with people who are sort of experts in the knowledge and are good clinicians at knowing how to do this kind of stuff, with AAC user feedback as well. If it was designed in the right way, it might mitigate some of those concerns about replacement and be used as a thought partner with guardrails.
Yeah. Actually, now that you're kind of talking about this in terms of designing a product, My advisor, Dr. Valencia, also has a product called Compa. And what that does is it actually monitors AAC communication via virtual calls like Zoom. Because when you're video chatting an AAC user, you can't see, what they're typing. You can't see they're trying to respond to a message. Like you could only really observe those body movements of them like looking down at their device, typing it, or using the chat feature on maybe like Zoom to type their response. What Compa does is it lets you know when the AAC user is typing so that you could kind of get an idea of how long you should wait until the AAC user responds. Because again, timing is always a huge barrier with AAC communication. So this platform helps mitigate those barriers. And then I believe she also designed a platform where AAC users can choose between generated responses based on just a couple words. So it kind of just expands their responses. Same idea for my co-design workshop. It provides those alternative responses using a generative AI to allow the AAC user to use more timely communication. So there are definitely products out there, and unfortunately, I don't think they're as well known as they should be, but, I'm hoping to use this opportunity to really like project these ideas out there. So I think like there are certain products out there that I'm not sure if they're public yet. I could definitely inquire about that, but I just want to reiterate that they do exist. There are certain products out there for AAC users to leverage generative AI.
For sure. One of the things that I also hear people talking about in this space is sort of the generative AI listening to the communication partner. So I'm an AAC user. I come to talk to someone who's using their mouth words. That person using their mouth words uses them, and the generative AI listens and generates potential options for my response. Again, I get to choose if I want one of those or not, or if I want to pick one and then edit it, as a start, as another way to potentially increase my rate. Where do I have to generate the entire sentence? And I could see that, with like, I could see that rolling into mainstream use. I'm wearing glasses right now, so Claire, people can't see me, but you can see me pointing to my glasses. Imagine they're smart glasses, and they come up with potential responses in my lenses of like, oh, here's two mouth speakers could be having a conversation where they're getting prompts from the generative AI. Again, maybe as a social cue. Hey, here's some things you could say that would be polite, as you're learning those social skills. Or here's some things that you could say, or big red flashes. Don't say this. That would be a problem. Like, there's lots of ways it could be used to help enhance communication to further social relationships, as opposed to a barrier in them.
Yeah, I'm not sure because it's been around for a long time. We have word prediction, right?
Yeah.
On Tobii devices, like we see like our AAC users typing and, the words come up right away. Yeah, it's not as fast as generative, the responses that come from generative AI, but like there is that kind of component of predicting like the next word, what the AAC user is trying to say without them having to type the entire thing. So it has like, the idea itself has always like manifested itself in AAC, but I think with AI becoming more prominent now, there's more potential for it.
Yeah, I could not agree more. Yeah, that's it's just figuring out what the right interface is, and making sure that it is truly the person that is making the final call. I'm the final submitter of my paper that I'm writing. I'm the final person who hits the send on the email. I'm the one that has decided that this is the message I want to communicate, and that it's, like you said, it's a support. So with all that said, how do people reach out to you? Like, you're looking, what's the time frame here? Or like, when are you trying to get started, and how can we help you, sort of spread the word?
I would like to start off with, I kind of want to see if there are interested AAC users. I'm looking for 16 and older. I myself work with a lot of kiddos, but right now I kind of want to only focus on like teens, young adults. So I would say maybe like, 16 and up. In terms of the diagnosis, I'm really interested in exploring autistic AAC users. I feel like they're becoming like, autism is very predominant neurodevelopmental disorder. And, it's really interesting to see, like, I see so many come into my practice. Like, it's just becoming more prevalent now. So I would like to explore more autistic users. And also, I'm really pushing this support group because I really do want to, try to make this a comfortable environment for the AAC users. And I want to make sure that they feel comfortable with us to share their ideas, because I don't want to just kind of like invite them on board and be like, oh, like, hey, we want you to do this, we want you to do that. And, we barely know them. So, we want to kind of just like build that connection with them. We want to kind of build that rapport with them before kind of just throwing them into these tasks, because that's not what research is about. Searching for solutions for your population while also considering the relationship the population has to those issues. So, for example, we could think of a hypothesis right now. AI can be used to address gaps in AAC communication. Yeah, sure. How do the AAC users feel about using AI? Do they not like it? Do they, use it a lot? Do they have some, skepticism about AI? So we don't know these things unless we build that rapport with the community and we really understand the user. Because if we just kind of recruit users and they, go into the study without kind of knowing, like, what exactly we want them to do, then what's the point? So I really am looking to advertise like that we are here to support them and we are here to use our research for good. So ideally I'm looking for autistic AAC users 16 and up. If they are able to bring a caregiver, that would be wonderful. We do encourage caregiver participation as well. And hopefully there are AAC users living in the DMV area and beyond the DMV area. So we, unless they're willing to make the drive to UMD, we don't mind recruiting from like Maryland, like, the state itself, Virginia. I don't know if Delaware, New Jersey is a little far, but their preference that they want to come all the way down here. But again, we want to make this a safe space and we want to make sure that, the AAC user can use this as an outlet to kind of share their, ideas with others and also connect with other AAC users who share the same challenges and also share the same interests. So again, we want to make sure that it is an opportunity for them and it's also an opportunity for them to kind of just share their ideas and also make those connections with other AAC users. So yeah, that's
awesome.
What I'm looking for.
If someone's listening right now and goes, I'm in, I want to learn more. I live in Maryland, I'm in Silver Springs. I want to come and be there. What's the way they reach out to you?
They can definitely send me an email. It's COCONN05@umd.edu. So they can send me an email. I want to make sure that the support group is preferably maybe like 5 AAC users. I want to keep it very small and very intimate. I want to have the user reach out to, or user or caregiver reach out to me first. I feel like if I advertise like the place and like the time and all that, like, anybody could show up and like, sure. I don't want it to be too overwhelming. So I would rather have them email me directly to get all the details. And then we could kind of discuss like in terms of what's feasible for them. And, do they want to, travel some time to get here? Because if we do get somebody who's far away, I want to make sure it's worthwhile coming here and not just like wasting their time. So, definitely reach out to me at my email.
Sounds like you're putting a lot of effort into making sure everyone feels comfortable and that it is respectful and that it works for everybody, that everybody leaves with a good experience, right? So, okay, one other detail here, and that is these podcast episodes tend to live on the internet for in perpetuity. So when is sort of the cutoff date that you're looking for? Like, oh man, I missed it. I just listened to this podcast and I missed it by this date. When's your deadline?
So in terms of the support group, I'm hoping to kind of get that up and running by within the next couple of weeks. Then with the co-design workshop, I'm hoping to start that this summer. So like June or July.
Gotcha. Okay. June or July of 2025.
Yes. You don't have to wait another year.
Awesome. All right. Well, we'll make sure we have that information, your email address, in the show notes if that works for you, so that people are like, wait, what was that? They can just click on the link and grab your email and send you an email asking you other questions or telling you that they're interested. And then I'll be interested to hear how things go, after it all comes together. I'd love to catch back up with you and see what the results of of all of this turns out to be.
Yeah, no, thank you. I'll definitely follow up with you as well. And, hopefully we'll have a better idea of where this goes.
Awesome. All right. Any last words, Claire?
No, I can't wait to see who reaches out. And I hope that, there are people interested in helping pursue this initiative. So thank you so much.
You're very welcome. All right. Thanks, Claire.
All right. Bye.